second to the first cat. I was drafted. I was back in the days when they drafted. I was an 11 Bravo. Layman's terms, that's a rifleman.
My rank was captain. I was in country in Vietnam itself from 68 to 69.
I first went in 1965, and I was an infantryman. I was a mortarman. I fired 4-point deuce mortars.
I started out as a lieutenant of infantry. I was a grunt.
I started in May of 1941 as a seaman second class, drawing $21 a month, and then I became an aviation cadet and got up to $74 a month.
I was a U.S. Air Force pilot, and I flew fighters, primarily the 101 Voodoo, which nobody seems to know anything about anymore.
Well, I was a squad leader in the infantry with the 101st Airborne Division.
I was an infantry, enlisted for 12 years, and I was an officer for 8 years.
I was a field archer in Basic Branch, 20 years. U.S. Army. I was a lieutenant colonel when I retired.
Air Force. I was a colonel, 22 years.
You know, our rules of engagement are not to fire until fired upon. And I told them I thought that was a crock of crap.
Targets of opportunity are not authorized. So that meant there was a political structure that you had to satisfy before you could attack a target.
We were told many times not to fire back, and that was like, I could never understand it. And at one time they made us not carry our magazine in our weapon.
We didn't really have that much to say about it. I don't know if we got shot at. We're gonna shoot back wherever we were. It didn't really matter.
Were the rules of engagement? I don't remember what they were. They were kill Japs. Is that a rule of engagement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the rules of engagement is a lesson that we keep relearning. We do not bring our forces to bear, basically, and when you start selecting targets, you make it difficult for the warriors.
We were attacked. If we ran into shit, then of course, then you do your stuff. The ordinary Joe, we just wanted to help our friend get home. A lot of guys felt we were fighting with one hand tied behind your back. You can do this and you can't do that. I mean, that's shit.
The rules of engagement now restricting our soldiers in as much as they can only fire back when they're shot at, and it's costing lives. That's a problem with it. It's costing lives, unnecessary lives and wounded.
The rules of engagement are out the window. Otherwise than that, it was, unfortunately, you couldn't shoot unless you were shot at type thing. It's stupid. And I didn't always wait for clearance.
The rules of engagement during Vietnam, that was a downer. A comparison being in a football game and being on defense all the time and not allowed to do the offensive maneuvers that would end the war. And that was a bitter pill.
And I don't think it made sense to anybody. I told the lieutenant, he says, well, if you have any problems with that, just tell him you were fired upon first.
It was just my first year in the war, and I really didn't understand what it meant. And now, in retrospect, I do. But it appears that there was a political arm to the strategy in the war.
We had to do what we were told, and nobody really questioned it, but we were all amongst ourselves like, what the hell's going on?
In other words, we'd go in and take a position, and then 2 or 3 days later, they would pull the infantry out, and we had to go in, pick them up, and pull them out. When they had to go back and retake that position, the Viet Cong were waiting for them. And it cost a lot of lives.
Was there a lot of camaraderie, you're asking? Without a doubt. I mean, because your friend's life depended on you. And it's like, we all were ready to sacrifice our life for our friends. I mean, to lay our lives down for a friend.
A great joy when we would go in, like a cap mission, and get somebody been shot down and get them out by helicopter. And we get back to the base and maybe have a beer at the club and celebrate their recovery. That was a feeling beyond belief.
My guys were on the front line every day, and I would say in the year I was with them, every officer in NCO I had got either killed or wounded.
My biggest disappointment would have been that we stopped too soon, and the poor Vietnamese, South Vietnamese, were conquered in 12 months, almost 12 months to the day after we released the POWs.
My biggest disappointment would probably be that they didn't let us win the war. We could have won it. We could have ended that. We could have ended it all.
I think my biggest disappointment over there was we would be woken up at 0:30 in the morning and we'd go on a convoy somewhere, we didn't know where, and by the time we got to where we were locating, it was daybreak, and as soon as that last track and that last tank shut their engines off, from out of nowhere were these Vietnamese women walking around with their Coke, trying to sell us Coca-Cola. And I thought, how did they know we were here? It was, what's going on here? I didn't feel safe at all the whole time I was there.
Having been over there and having had Agent Orange do to me what you see now, it really bothers me. I feel like I kind of wasted my time.
I, in flying anti-submarine patrol, had finally found the Jap sub, and I flew over it in my Kingfisher and dropped a 500-pound depth charge on it, except that submarine turned out to be a whale, and I killed the whale.
My job was to fly the commanding general, General Heinz, wherever you want to do, helicopter. They brought a new helicopter in for him. The flight operations officer called me up. Major Lemon says, come on out, I'm going to show you how to fly this thing. He took me up and he made one come around in the pattern one time. He says, now we're going to do a running landing with this helicopter. Well, he come in and stuck the skids, the toes, in the mud and rolled it over and totaled the aircraft.
I did lose some friends in the service. The one that I guess I think of the most is a man who flew the F-105s. On one of his bombing runs, he got hit by anti-aircraft fire and augered in right near the bridge that he was targeted. And they did not find his remains till 1992. Long time.
We were surrounded by, I guess it was a division of hardcore North Vietnamese, and we were being fired upon from this one hill. It was at Hill 1000. We had maybe 30 guys left out of 150, between wounded and killed and everything. And I remember talking to my best friend, Hupp. I said, some of us are not going to make it. I've got a feeling some of us are not going to make it down from this hill. What happened was he started to shoot grenades. He got shot right in the head by a machine gunner.
Did you lose any friends?
Yes.
Give us a story about somebody that you might have lost.
Well, can I take a break?
Sure, no, that's okay. We'll just cut the camera.
Yeah, okay. I can't do this.
Yeah.
Can't talk about that.
Okay, no,
No, we're not going to talk about that.
Okay, no problem. Okay.
I lost my best friend in '65. He was also an advisor at the same level I was at, but in a different district. He went over about 6 months before I did. And just one of those things on patrol, and they get caught in an ambush, and he got hit in a silver bullet, just one shot.
Quite frankly, when I went over there, I didn't think I was going to survive. We had 100 missions to do up north, and it was problematic whether you were going to make the 100 missions. Then when you did, you felt really good about it. But then again, bittersweet, kind of mixed emotions that we weren't allowed to hit the targets that would have won the war very quickly.
Our wonderful politicians. I don't like politicians.
Yeah.
I don't like what they stand for. I'm fed up with where this country is going.
You may not have heard of it, but there was a General Giap. He was a very big general in the North Vietnamese army. He has been quoted as saying that we were like within 48 hours of surrendering to the Americans. See, I didn't learn that till 30 or 40 years later when I read an email that General Giap had written that. He didn't tell me that when I was there.
Everything's political. And people up above making money in their pockets, and we're sent over there just to do the dirty work. That's how I felt.
I hope that we are able to come out of what we're currently in with the administration. I hope we've learned our lesson.
Well, you know, I'm 93, and I look back at all of those good experiences, and it was a great experience being in the Navy, and I enjoyed every bit of it, and I thank you folks for paying for my retirement, and I deserve every penny of it.
All we can do is do our best to support the country, to get education and the family back on track, which is our basic problem in this country.
I hope that we'll wake up and we'll come back to our true values as our founders, George Washington and the founders of our country had for freedom.
Now, why are they giving the Gitmo prisoners $1 million soccer field, and on the other hand, taking away the military benefits or increasing the copay of the soldiers that were wounded or injured in the service? It's despicable.
You get a pretty good, smart, intelligent guy. You send him in Washington, it don't take 6 months, and he's thinking just like the rest of them. The older I get, the more I believe in term limits. It's that I'd like to see.
And I tell the administration they need to sit down and see what made this country great. We need to go back to those traditional values that were laid down by our forefathers. We can't forget. We cannot forget those individuals.
Do I have any hopes and dreams for this country? Whew. I just wish they would buckle down and get their act together and stop sending our boys over and getting killed. We're losing too many young men in this country for nothing.
One thing I would do to improve this government, to change it for the better, is I would eliminate the current administration.
Do I have any hopes and dreams for this country? I sure do. It's that we can realize and do something about what I conceive to be a global threat to the existence of the United States. There you are. Is that put well enough?
I think we need to get back to government by the people, not by the governments.
It's like Benjamin Franklin said. He said, I'm delivering you this republic if you can keep it.
Right now, this country is becoming a nanny state like Greece and Portugal, and that worries me every day.
My favorite girlfriend is my wife. I met my wife in high school. We were sophomores in high school, and we dated all the way through college. And when I graduated from college, we got married, and we're still together 46 years later.
My favorite girlfriend of all time, Liz Taylor's got to be.
Who's my favorite girlfriend? You're not going to put that on camera.
Who's my favorite girlfriend? Oh my God. You would have to ask me that. Oh man, I'd have to say her name was Alice Joe.
Yeah?
Yeah, she was my first. Yeah.
Do you have a story you'd like to relate about Alice?